The morning started like any other Tuesday for Captain Jake Morrison. He was drinking his third cup of coffee on Liberty 1, Earth's largest orbital defense station. The station floated quietly in space, watching over the planet below. Jake had been stationed there for 2 years, and most days were boring. He checked radar screens, filed reports, and counted the hours until his shift ended. At exactly 0800 hours, everything changed. The long-range sensors started screaming. Alarms filled the control room with red flashing lights. Jake dropped his coffee mug and ran to the main console. What he saw on the screen made his blood freeze. 9,900 ships had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. "This can't be right," Jake whispered, checking the numbers again. The computer confirmed what his eyes already knew. Nearly 10,000 alien vessels had emerged from hyperspace near Pluto. They were arranged in perfect formation, like a massive wall of metal and death. Jake's hands shook as he activated the emergency communication system. "This is Liberty 1 to Earth Command. We have a code black situation. Repeat, code black. 9,900 unknown vessels detected at the system edge." On the alien flagship Eternal Dominion, Admiral Vexthal studied the third planet from this small yellow star. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he reviewed the intelligence reports. This species called themselves humans, and they had barely learned to leave their home planet. Their technology was primitive, their weapons laughable. "Another easy conquest," Vexthal said to his second-in-command. "These creatures still use chemical rockets and nuclear fission. We could destroy them with a single battle group." The Admiral had conquered 12 worlds in his long career. Each victory had been swift and decisive. The pattern was always the same. Arrive with overwhelming force, demonstrate superior power, accept surrender, then strip the world of its resources. This small blue planet would be no different. "Prepare the standard ultimatum," Vexthal ordered. "Give them 72 hours to surrender unconditionally." Deep underground in Colorado, Dr. Lisa Campbell was working late in her laboratory when the emergency alerts started. As head of Earth's Experimental Weapons Division, she received the terrifying news within minutes of Jake's first report. Her team of scientists and engineers gathered around her as she read the classified briefing. "How many did you say?" asked Dr. Kevin Brooks, her second-in-command. 9,900 ships, Lisa repeated. "Our best estimates suggest each one is at least 10 times larger than our biggest destroyer." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the mathematics. Earth's entire military had maybe 300 ships capable of space combat. Most of those were patrol vessels and supply ships, not true warships. "What do we have that might work against them?" Kevin asked. Lisa pulled up files on her computer screen. "The plasma cannon prototypes are still in testing. The new missile designs aren't ready for mass production, and our shield technology is decades behind what these aliens probably have." She looked around the room at her team. These were some of the smartest people on Earth, but they all had the same expression of shock and fear. President Helen Carter was in the Oval Office when her chief of staff burst through the door without knocking. The look on his face told her everything she needed to know before he spoke a single word. "Madam President, we need to get you to the bunker immediately." "What's happened?" Helen asked, already standing up from her desk. "Aliens. Nearly 10,000 ships. They're real and they're here." Helen felt the world spin around her. In all her years in politics, she had never imagined facing something like this. Wars with other countries, natural disasters, economic problems. These were things she could handle. But an alien invasion was beyond anything she had prepared for. "How long do we have?" she asked as they walked quickly toward the emergency elevator. "Unknown. They're still at the edge of the solar system, but they're moving toward us." Within 6 hours, the alien ultimatum reached Earth. The message was broadcast on every frequency, in every human language. The voice was cold and mechanical, translated by alien computers that had quickly learned human speech patterns. "People of the third planet, you will surrender all military forces within 72 hours. You will prepare your world for occupation. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. This is your only warning." To demonstrate their power, the aliens selected Pluto's small research station as a target. The station housed only 15 scientists studying the outer solar system. Jake Morrison watched from Liberty 1 as a single beam of energy reached across space and turned the research station into glowing vapor. They killed them all, Jake whispered. 15 people gone in a second. The message was clear. The aliens could destroy anything they wanted, whenever they wanted. Earth's weapons couldn't reach them at that distance, and their own weapons could strike with perfect accuracy across the entire solar system. But something unexpected happened in the hours that followed. Instead of panic, instead of despair, humanity began to show something the aliens had never encountered before. From every corner of the Earth, the same message started appearing on social media, on television, in newspapers and radio broadcasts. No. Not. We surrender. Or please don't hurt us, or we'll do whatever you want. Just no. A farmer in Kansas posted a video of himself loading his hunting rifle. They want to take my farm? They can try. A teacher in New York organized her students to build barricades in their school. If they want our children, they'll have to go through us first. A mechanic in Texas welded metal plates onto his pickup truck and painted Earth or Death on the side. The pattern repeated everywhere. Instead of fear, humans felt anger. Instead of surrender, they chose defiance. The aliens had made a critical error in their calculations. They had assumed that humans, like every other species they had conquered, would choose survival over freedom. Dr. Lisa Campbell worked for 48 hours straight, trying to find anything that might help. Her team tested every weapon design, every experimental technology, every half-finished project in their database. Most were useless against advanced alien shields and armor. But then Kevin Brooks made a discovery while analyzing the energy readings from the destroyed research station. "Lisa, look at this," he said, pointing to his computer screen. The alien weapon created a specific electromagnetic signature when it fired. Lisa studied the data. "What am I looking for?" "The frequency modulation. It's not random. There's a pattern here, like their weapons operate on specific harmonic frequencies." Lisa's eyes widened as she understood what Kevin was suggesting. If their weapons work on harmonic frequencies, maybe their shields do too. Exactly. And if we can find the right counter frequency, we might be able to disrupt their defenses. Lisa felt hope for the first time since the crisis began. It's a long shot, but it's something. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison received new orders from Earth Command. Every available ship was being called into service. Military vessels, civilian transports, mining ships, even private yachts were being armed with whatever weapons could be mounted on their hulls. Jake looked out the window of Liberty 1 at the growing fleet assembling near Earth. It was pitiful compared to the alien armada, but it was what they had. A few hundred ships against nearly 10,000. The 72-hour deadline was approaching fast. In 24 hours, the alien fleet would reach Earth's orbit. The real war was about to begin, and everyone knew the odds were hopeless. But as Jake watched the stars, he remembered something his grandfather had told him years ago. "Sometimes, Jake, it's not about winning. Sometimes it's about making sure the other guy knows he was in a fight." The aliens were about to learn what that meant. The 72 hours passed like minutes. Commander Ryan Phillips sat in the cockpit of his fighter, watching the alien fleet approach Earth's orbit. His ship was called the Wasp, and it was barely bigger than a car. Around him, 300 other human pilots waited in their own small fighters. "This is insane," his wingman Danny Carter said over the radio. "Our ships are like gnats attacking elephants." Ryan looked at his weapons display. 2 plasma cannons and 4 nuclear missiles. That was all he had against ships the size of cities. But orders were orders, and Earth needed time for the scientists to finish their work. "Remember the plan," Ryan said to his squadron. "We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to make them hurt." Admiral Vexthal watched the approaching human ships with amusement. His tactical display showed the pathetic Earth fleet spreading out in attack formation. 300 tiny fighters against his 9,900 warships. It would be over in minutes. "Shall we destroy them now, Admiral?" asked his weapons officer. "Not yet," Vexthal replied. Let them come closer. I want them to see the futility of their resistance before we end this. The alien admiral had seen this before on other worlds. The local species would make one desperate attack, realize they were hopelessly outmatched, and then surrender. It saved time and resources. But Ryan Phillips had no intention of surrendering. He led his fighters straight toward the biggest alien ship he could find. His radar showed it was over 3 miles long and bristling with weapons. Perfect. All fighters, execute Plan Crazy, Ryan ordered. Plan Crazy was exactly what it sounded like. Instead of trying to fight the alien ships in normal space combat, the human fighters scattered in all directions. Some dove toward the planet, others climbed away from the orbital plane, a few flew directly at the sun. The alien gunners tried to track the chaotic human movements, but their targeting systems were designed for orderly battles. They expected enemy ships to fight in formations, following predictable patterns. The random, seemingly suicidal human attacks confused their computers. Ryan dove his fighter beneath a massive alien cruiser and fired all 4 of his nuclear missiles at its belly. The explosions did little damage to the ship's shields, but they created bright flashes that blinded the alien sensors for a few seconds. In those seconds, Danny Carter flew his fighter directly into the cruiser's main engine port and detonated his ship's reactor. The alien cruiser shuddered as the explosion tore through its engine room. It was the first alien ship to take serious damage, and Admiral Vexthal felt a flicker of surprise. One ship, he told himself, a lucky hit, nothing more. But then it happened again, and again. Fighter pilot Maria Santos flew her ship into an alien dreadnought's bridge. Lieutenant Bobby Walsh detonated his missiles inside an enemy hangar bay. Captain Sue Reynolds rammed her fighter into an alien communication array. Every human pilot who died took something with them. An engine, a weapon, a shield generator. None of the alien ships were destroyed, but many were damaged. On the surface of Earth, former Army Ranger Katie Walsh watched the battle through binoculars from a rooftop in New York City. She had been called back to active duty when the crisis began, but her orders were different from the pilots in space. Katie's job was to prepare for what came next. Around her, civilian volunteers worked frantically to turn the city into a fortress. They blocked streets with overturned cars, filled buildings with supplies, and prepared thousands of improvised weapons. They'll land troops soon, Katie told her team. When they do, we need to be ready. Her second in command was a former police officer named Carl Jensen. He had never fought aliens before, but he understood urban warfare. The good news is they don't know our cities, Carl said. Every street, every building, every sewer tunnel is an advantage for us. Katie nodded. The bad news is they probably have better weapons and armor than we do. Then we'll have to be smarter, said a voice behind them. They turned to see an elderly man climbing onto the rooftop. He was Dale Henderson, a farmer from upstate who had volunteered to help defend the city. I've been thinking about this, Dale continued. These aliens conquered other worlds, right? That means they know how to fight armies and governments, but do they know how to fight farmers and shopkeepers and school teachers? Katie understood immediately. Guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run attacks, make them afraid to leave their ships. Meanwhile, in space, the human fighter attacks were having an unexpected effect on the alien crews. The Zephyrians had never faced enemies who deliberately destroyed themselves to inflict damage. It went against every military doctrine they knew. Admiral, reported the tactical officer, we've lost 17 ships to critical damage. Another 43 have reduced combat effectiveness. Vexthal's 4 eyes narrowed. How many human fighters remain? Fewer than 50, sir. The admiral should have felt victorious. His fleet had destroyed over 250 enemy fighters while losing none of his own ships completely. But something felt wrong. The humans weren't fighting like any species he had encountered. Begin orbital bombardment, Vexthal ordered. Target their military installations first, then their cities. The first alien bombardment beam struck military bases around the world. Huge explosions lit up the night sky as army bases, naval yards, and air force installations were vaporized. But the humans had expected this. Most of the important equipment and personnel had already been moved to hidden locations. The aliens were destroying empty buildings. Dr. Lisa Campbell watched the bombardment from her new laboratory, buried deep under a mountain in Colorado. Her team had made breakthrough progress on the electromagnetic frequency weapons, but they needed more. Time? How long until the prototype is ready? She asked Kevin Brooks. 6 hours for the first unit. Maybe 12 hours to build enough to make a difference. Lisa looked at the tactical display showing alien landing ships descending toward major cities. We might not have 12 hours. The first alien ground troops landed in New York City just after midnight. They expected to find a broken, terrified population ready to surrender. Instead, they found Katie Walsh and her urban guerrillas waiting. The aliens were tall, gray-skinned creatures with advanced armor and energy weapons. They moved in perfect formation through the streets, confident in their superior technology. Katie watched them from a hidden position in a subway tunnel. She counted their numbers, studied their weapons, and looked for weaknesses. Now, she whispered into her radio. Explosions erupted all around the alien patrol, not from advanced weapons, but from simple pipe bombs hidden in trash cans, manhole covers rigged with dynamite, and Molotov cocktails thrown from rooftops. The aliens took cover and returned fire with their energy weapons, but their shots hit empty windows and abandoned cars. The humans had already moved to new positions. Dale Henderson emerged from a storm drain behind the alien formation. He was carrying a hunting rifle loaded with armor-piercing rounds. Not enough to kill the aliens, but enough to crack their helmet, visors. Surprise, Dale said, and pulled the trigger. The battle for Earth's cities began with humans using everything they could find as weapons. Kitchen knives, baseball bats, garden tools, and farm equipment became instruments of war. In Chicago, a group of mechanics led by Tony Tucker turned a city bus into an armored fighting vehicle. In Los Angeles, a team of construction workers used bulldozers and cranes to crush alien vehicles. In Miami, fishermen used their boats to attack alien ships in the harbor. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had something more valuable: desperation and creativity. Back in space, Commander Ryan Phillips was down to his last missile. His fighter was damaged, his shields were gone, and half his instruments were dead. But he was still alive, and there were still alien ships to fight. He spotted an enemy transport heading toward Earth's surface, probably carrying more troops. Ryan set an intercept course and pushed his engines to maximum power. "This is Commander Phillips to all remaining fighters," he said over the radio. "We came here to buy time for Earth. Looks like we did our job." Ryan's fighter slammed into the alien transport at full speed. The explosion lit up the space around Earth like a second sun. On the surface, Katie Walsh saw the flash in the sky and knew what it meant. The space battle was over, and now it was up to the ground forces to continue the fight. She looked around, at her team of volunteers, cops, teachers, truck drivers, and grandmothers, all armed with whatever weapons they could find. "Okay, people," Katie said. "Now it's our turn. Let's show these aliens what humans do when someone tries to take our home." The real war was just beginning. 3 days after the first alien landings, Admiral Vexethal was starting to worry. His fleet had easily destroyed the human space fighters and bombarded their military bases. His ground troops had landed in every major city on Earth. By all logic, the humans should have surrendered by now. Instead, they were fighting harder. "Report," Vexethal demanded from his communications officer. "Sir, we've lost contact with 37 ground units in the last 24 hours. Our forces in the human cities are requesting reinforcements." The Admiral's four eyes blinked in confusion. "Lost contact? Are they dead?" "Unknown, sir. Some units went silent during battles. Others simply stopped responding while on patrol. A few sent partial distress signals before their communicators were destroyed. This was not supposed to happen. The Zephyrian military machine had conquered 12 worlds using the same tactics. Overwhelming force followed by occupation, followed by surrender. But these humans were not following the pattern. In the ruins of what used to be downtown New York, Katie Walsh crawled through a collapsed building with her team. They had been fighting for 3 days without sleep, using hit-and-run tactics, against the alien patrols. "There," whispered Carl Jensen, pointing through a broken window. 6 aliens moving down Fifth Avenue. Katie studied the enemy patrol. The aliens moved in a perfect diamond formation, exactly like they had been taught in their military schools. They checked their corners, watched their angles, and communicated through hand signals. They fight like soldiers, Katie observed. Good soldiers, but still soldiers. What's the difference? Asked Dale Henderson. The old farmer had proven surprisingly good at urban warfare. Soldiers follow rules, Katie explained. We don't have any rules left. She pulled out a small remote control and pressed a button. 2 blocks away, a car bomb exploded near another alien patrol. The sound echoed through the empty streets. The 6 aliens in front of them immediately moved toward the explosion, following. They're training to investigate and support other units. It was exactly what Katie had expected. Dale, take the alley. Carl, you're with me. Wait for my signal. The humans had learned that aliens were predictable. They always responded the same way to the same situations. This made them easy to trick. When the alien patrol reached the site of the explosion, they found nothing but burning wreckage. No human bodies, no weapons, no sign of who had planted the bomb. That's when Katie and her team opened fire from 3 different directions. The battle lasted less than 2 minutes. When it was over, 6 more aliens were dead, and the humans had captured their weapons and communication equipment. This is getting easier, Carl said, examining an alien energy rifle. No, Katie replied. We're getting better. Far from the cities, Captain Jake Morrison was learning the same lesson. After Liberty One was destroyed in the first day of fighting, he had taken command of a mixed group of military and civilian ships hiding in the asteroid belt. His new flagship was a converted cargo hauler called the Prairie Wind. It wasn't much to look at, but it could carry enough firepower to hurt the aliens. Contact bearing 270, reported his sensor operator, Lieutenant Nina Rodriguez. 1 alien cruiser moving alone. Jake studied the tactical display. The alien ship was probably looking for human survivors in the asteroid field. Was powerful enough to destroy his entire makeshift fleet, but it was also alone and far from help. Nina, can you jam their communications? For maybe 10 minutes before they break through our interference. That'll have to be enough. All ships prepare for attack pattern chaos. Attack pattern chaos was something Jake had invented after studying the alien response to human fighter attacks. Instead of coordinating their movements, each human ship would act independently, making it impossible for alien computers to predict their actions. The human ships came at the alien cruiser from every direction. Some flew straight at it, others circled around behind, and a few hid behind asteroids waiting to ambush. The alien captain tried to engage them using standard fleet tactics, but there was no pattern to defend against. Every time his weapons locked onto one human ship, 2 others would attack from a different angle. Jake brought the Prairie Wind in close to the alien ship's hull and fired everything he had. His converted cargo hauler wasn't built for combat, but desperation had made it deadly. The alien cruiser's shields flickered and died. Its hull cracked open, spilling atmosphere and crew into space. Another victory for the humans. But Jake knew it wouldn't last. We can pick off their scouts and patrols, he told Nina. But sooner or later they'll send their main fleet after us. Back on Earth, the aliens were learning to fear something they had never encountered before. Human prisoners who refused to break. Dr. Elizabeth Stone had been captured during the fall of Washington, D.C. The aliens brought her aboard their command ship for interrogation, expecting to learn about human military plans. Instead, Dr. Stone spent 3 hours explaining in great detail how humans reproduced, what they ate for breakfast, and why baseball was better than football. When the aliens asked about military secrets, she told them jokes. Your defensive installations, demanded the alien interrogator. Where are they hidden? Well, Dr. Stone said thoughtfully. There's this place called Disneyland. Very heavily defended. Lots of mouse-shaped weapons. The interrogator's translator struggled with the concept of mouse-shaped weapons. After 6 hours, the aliens gave up and threw Dr. Stone in a cell with other human prisoners, but she had accomplished something important. She had wasted 6 hours of their time and filled their intelligence reports with useless information. Other human prisoners were doing the same thing all over the world. Instead of breaking under torture, They told lies, made jokes, and sang annoying songs until their captors wanted to throw them out of airlocks. The psychological effect on the Zephyrian forces was severe. They had been trained to fight soldiers and conquer governments. They didn't know how to handle an entire species that seemed to treat war like a game. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Campbell and her team had finally completed their electromagnetic frequency weapons. The devices looked like oversized radio antennas, but they could disrupt alien shield generators from several miles away. First field test, Lisa announced as her team set up the prototype on a hilltop outside Denver. Below them, an alien patrol was moving through the suburbs. Kevin Brooks activated the device. A pulse of electromagnetic energy swept across the valley, invisible to human eyes but devastating to alien technology. The shields on every alien vehicle flickered and died. Their weapons stopped working. Even their communication systems went silent. "It works," Kevin said in amazement. "It actually works." The alien patrol was now defenseless against human weapons. Within minutes, local militia forces attacked the confused aliens with hunting rifles and homemade explosives. "How many of these devices can we build?" Lisa asked. "With the materials we have?" "Maybe 50 units in the next week." Lisa smiled for the first time since the invasion began. "Then we better get to work." The news of the successful weapon test spread quickly through the human resistance networks. For the first time, Earth's defenders had something that could level the playing field against alien technology. But the aliens were adapting too. Admiral Vexithal realized that his forces were losing the war of attrition. Every day brought new human attacks, new casualties, new problems. "We need to change our strategy," he told his officers. "These humans don't fight like any species we've encountered." "What do you recommend, Admiral?" asked his tactical officer. "Total extermination. No prisoners, no occupation, no mercy. We'll sterilize the planet from orbit and be done with this." The decision would have been easy on any other world. The Zephyrians had the firepower to turn Earth's surface into molten rock within hours. But something had changed in the alien crews. Too many of their comrades had died in pointless battles against human guerrillas. Too many ships had been damaged by suicidal human attacks. The humans had gotten inside their heads. For the first time in their military history, some Zephyrian soldiers were afraid. Lieutenant Colonel Brad Stone had escaped from the destroyed Pentagon and was now leading a group of Special Forces soldiers in the Virginia mountains. His team had captured several alien weapons and learned how to use them. "The key is their command structure," Brad explained to his men. "They rely on orders from above. If we can disrupt their communications, they get confused." His team had discovered that alien ground forces couldn't function independently. When they lost contact with their ships, they became cautious and defensive. "Tonight, we hit their communication relay," Brad continued. "Take that out, and every alien unit in a 50-mile radius becomes deaf and blind." The mission was dangerous, but Brad's team had been training for impossible missions their entire careers. They moved through the forest like ghosts, avoiding alien patrols and sensor sweeps. The communication relay was heavily guarded, but the aliens weren't expecting an attack from underground. Brad's team used old mining tunnels to get close to the facility. The battle was brief but intense. Human explosives destroyed the relay tower while Special Forces soldiers held off the alien guards. When it was over, thousands of alien troops across the region had lost contact with their command ships. Admiral Vexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at reports that made no sense. In 2 weeks of fighting, his fleet of 9,900 ships had been reduced to fewer than 3,000. Not from massive space battles or superior enemy technology, but from thousands of small attacks that slowly bled his forces to death. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the humans have deployed 57 of their electromagnetic weapons across the planet. Our ground forces are requesting immediate evacuation." Vexthal's 4 eyes burned with frustration. "Evacuate? We have the most powerful fleet in the galaxy." "Yes, sir. But the humans are destroying our ships faster than we can replace them." The Admiral looked at his tactical display. Red dots marked the locations of damaged or destroyed Zephyrian vessels. There were so many red dots that the screen looked like it had a disease. "Begin total planetary bombardment," Vexthal ordered. Turn their world into ash. It should have been simple. The Zephyrian fleet still had enough firepower to destroy every city on Earth within hours. But as the bombardment began, the humans proved they had one more surprise waiting. Dr. Lisa Campbell watched from her underground laboratory as the first bombardment beams struck Earth's surface. But instead of destroying cities, many of the beams were being deflected by invisible force fields. The orbital shield generators are working, Kevin Brooks reported with excitement. We're actually blocking their bombardment. Lisa smiled. While the aliens had been fighting ground forces and dealing with resistance attacks, her team had been secretly installing shield generators around major population centers. The shields were powered by the same electromagnetic frequency technology that disrupted alien weapons. How long can the shields hold? Lisa asked. Maybe 6 hours against full bombardment, but look at this. Kevin showed her a computer display tracking the alien fleet's movements. They're moving closer to get better firing angles. Some of their ships are now within range of our new weapons. The new weapons were hyperspace mines built using technology salvaged from destroyed alien ships. Tony Tucker, the mechanic who had reverse-engineered alien hyperspace drives, had figured out how to teleport explosives directly inside enemy vessels. It's ready, Tony reported over the communication system. We can put a nuclear bomb inside any alien ship within 1,000 miles. Lisa felt a thrill of hope. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had weapons that could truly hurt the alien fleet. Commander Jake Morrison received the orders while hiding his makeshift fleet behind Jupiter's largest moon. His mission was simple but terrifying. Lead a direct assault on the alien flagship while the hyperspace mines attacked the rest of the fleet. This is suicide, Nina Rodriguez said, looking at the battle plan. Probably, Jake agreed. But if we can take out their command ship, the rest of their fleet might retreat. Jake's fleet consisted of 63 ships, military vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, and even a few luxury yachts that had been converted into warships. Against 3,000 alien vessels, they stood no chance in a fair fight. But Jake had no intention of fighting fair. All ships, prepare for attack pattern insanity, he ordered. Attack pattern insanity was even more chaotic than attack pattern chaos. Every human ship would attack a different target, using completely random methods. Some would ram enemy vessels, others would deploy all their weapons at once, and a few would simply fly in circles, shooting at everything they could see. The plan was designed to confuse alien tactical computers and create so much chaos that the hyperspace mines could do their work undetected. On Earth, Katie Walsh was leading the final assault on alien ground forces in New York City. The electromagnetic weapons had disabled most alien vehicles and equipment, leaving their troops vulnerable to human weapons. Remember, Katie told her fighters, they're tough but they're not invincible. Aim for the joints in their armor. Her force consisted of police officers, National Guard soldiers, and hundreds of civilian volunteers. They were armed with everything, from military rifles to baseball bats wrapped in barbed wire. The aliens had taken refuge in Central Park, using their remaining working vehicles to create a defensive perimeter. But they were cut off from their ships and running low on supplies. Surrender now and we'll treat you fairly, Katie called out through a megaphone. The alien commander's response was a blast from an energy weapon that melted the megaphone in her hands. Okay, Katie said. We do this the hard way. The battle for Central Park began at dawn. Human fighters attacked from every direction, using the park's trees and buildings for cover. The aliens fought back with disciplined volleys, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Dale Henderson, the farmer who had become an expert urban warrior, led a team through the underground subway tunnels. They emerged behind the alien lines and attacked their command post with homemade explosives. In space, Jake Morrison's fleet began their suicidal assault on the alien armada. The Prairie Wind led the charge, firing everything it had at the massive enemy ships. Nina, activate the hyperspace mines, Jake ordered. Across the solar system, 50 hyperspace mines materialized inside alien vessels. Nuclear explosions erupted from within Zephyrian ships, tearing them apart from the inside. The alien fleet's perfect formations dissolved into chaos as ship after ship vanished in brilliant flashes of light. Their tactical computers couldn't understand how the humans were attacking from inside their own vessels. Admiral Vexthal watched in horror as his fleet died around him. How are they doing this? Unknown, Admiral. The humans appear to have developed some form of teleportation technology. That's impossible. Our intelligence reports said they barely understood nuclear fusion, but the evidence was burning in space, around them. 40 alien ships had been destroyed in the first wave of hyperspace mine attacks, and the humans were preparing more. Tony Tucker was already loading another set of mines into the teleportation system. Next batch is ready, he reported to Dr. Campbell. Where do you want them? Lisa studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet. Target their largest ships, the ones that look like command vessels. Got it. Sending 20 nukes to the biggest targets. The second wave of hyperspace mines materialized inside the alien flagship and its escort vessels. Even Admiral Vexthal's massive ship shuddered as nuclear fire erupted in its engine rooms. All ships retreat, Vexthal ordered. Full withdrawal, to the outer system. But Jake Morrison's fleet was already among them, making retreat impossible. Human ships rammed alien vessels, detonated themselves against enemy hulls, and fired point-blank into alien weapon ports. The prairie wind took dozens of hits as it charged toward the alien flagship. Jake could see explosions erupting all over his ship, but the engines were still working. Nina, get to the escape pods, Jake ordered. Not without you, sir. That's an order, Lieutenant. Nina Rodriguez looked at her captain for a long moment, then saluted. It's been an honor, sir. She ran toward the escape pods as Jake aimed his dying ship at the alien flagship's bridge. The Prairie Wind's nuclear reactor was already overloading. When it hit, the explosion would be visible from Earth. On the planet's surface, Katie Walsh's fighters had broken through the alien defenses in Central Park. The last group of alien soldiers was surrounded, their weapons depleted, their armor cracked. Surrender, Katie called out again. This time the aliens dropped their weapons. As news of the victory spread across Earth, something remarkable happened. Humans around the world began celebrating, not because the war was over, but because they had proven something important. They could not be conquered. Dr. Elizabeth Stone, recently freed from alien captivity, stood on the roof of a damaged building. In Washington, D.C., she could see the flashes of nuclear fire in space as the battle continued above. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. But the celebration was premature. Admiral Vexthal's flagship was damaged but not destroyed. Nearly 400 alien ships had survived the assault and were regrouping at the edge of the solar system. The alien admiral looked at his remaining forces and made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All ships prepare for final bombardment, he ordered. If we cannot conquer this world, we will destroy it completely. The surviving alien fleet turned toward Earth, their weapons charging for one last, devastating attack. But as they prepared to fire, Admiral Vexthal received a message that changed everything. It was from his homeworld, and it contained news that made his blood freeze. Admiral, the message began, we have monitored your battle reports. By order of the High Command, you are to cease all operations against the human world immediately. Vexthal stared at the message in disbelief. Why? The answer came in the next transmission. Because our entire empire is terrified of them. Word of humanity's resistance had spread across the galaxy. Other conquered species were rising in rebellion, inspired by Earth's example. The Zephyrian Empire was facing revolts on dozens of worlds. The High Command believes, the message continued, that humanity represents a threat to galactic stability. You are ordered to withdraw immediately and establish a quarantine zone around their system. Admiral Vexthal looked at his tactical display one last time. 400 ships remained from his original fleet of 9,900. Admiral Vexthal stared at the order from his home world for a full minute before speaking. Around him, the bridge crew of his damaged flagship waited in silence. Outside the windows, Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel. Beautiful and deadly. Communications officer, Vexthal said finally, open a channel to all remaining ships. Channel open, Admiral. Vexthal took a deep breath. In his long military career, he had never given an order like this. All vessels, this is the Admiral. We are withdrawing from this system immediately. Set course for home. The alien fleet, what remained of it, slowly turned away from Earth. 407 ships limped toward the edge of the solar system, carrying with them the survivors of the greatest military disaster in Zephyrian history. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Campbell watched the alien retreat from her underground laboratory. The readings on her screens showed the enemy ships moving away at maximum speed. They're really leaving, Kevin Brooks said in amazement. Are we sure it's not a trick? Asked Tony Tucker over the communication system. Lisa studied the data carefully. No trick. They're running. The news spread across Earth within hours. From New York to Tokyo, from London to Sydney, humans emerged from their hiding places and looked up at the sky. The alien fleet was gone, but the victory had come at a terrible price. President Helen Carter stood in what remained of the White House reading casualty reports. The numbers were staggering. Millions of people had died in the bombing attacks. Entire cities lay in ruins. The planet's military forces had been almost completely destroyed. How many of our ships survived? She asked her military advisor. 17, Madam President, out of 300 that participated in the final battle. Helen closed her eyes. So many brave people had died to protect their world. Pilots like Jake Morrison, who had flown suicide missions against impossible odds. Soldiers like the thousands who had fought in the cities and forests. But they had won. Against all logic, against overwhelming force, humanity had driven off the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Katie Walsh walked through the ruins of Central Park, where the final ground battle had taken place. The grass was burned black, the trees were broken stumps, and craters marked where alien weapons had fired. But they had won here too. Katie, called a familiar voice. She turned to see Dale Henderson walking toward her. The old farmer was limping from a wound in his leg, but he was smiling. Heard you made it through the big fight, Dale said. Barely, Katie replied. You? Still breathing. That's more than I expected when this whole thing started. They stood together in the ruined park, two survivors of an impossible war. Around them, other humans were emerging from hiding places, beginning the long work of rebuilding their world. Think they'll come back? Dale asked. Katie looked up at the sky where alien ships were still visible as tiny dots moving away from Earth. Maybe. But if they do, we'll be ready. In space, Lieutenant Nina Rodriguez floated in an escape pod, watching the alien fleet retreat. She was one of only 43 survivors from Jake Morrison's final assault. Her captain had died when the prairie wind rammed the alien flagship, but his sacrifice had helped win the war. This is Lieutenant Rodriguez to any Earth ships, she broadcast on the emergency frequency. The aliens are leaving. Repeat, the aliens are leaving. The response came from an unexpected source. It was Admiral Brad Stone, Jake Morrison's replacement, as commander of Earth's surviving fleet. Confirmed, Lieutenant, we're tracking their withdrawal. You did good up there. Nina felt tears in her eyes. They had actually won. Somehow, impossibly, they had beaten the aliens. But on the alien flagship, Admiral Vexthal was composing a very different kind of message. It would be his final report to the Zephyrian High Command, and it would change the course of galactic history. Final report on Earth campaign, he began. Total Zephyrian losses, 9,493 ships destroyed or severely damaged. Surviving fleet, 407 vessels. Human losses, estimated 300. Ships, mostly small fighters. He paused, trying to find words for what he had witnessed. Recommendation: establish permanent quarantine around the human system. Under no circumstances should any Zephyrian force engage these creatures again. Admiral, his communications officer, interrupted. The High Command is requesting more details about human military capabilities. Vexthal thought about everything he had seen. The suicidal fighter attacks, the guerrilla warfare in the cities, the prisoners who told jokes instead of revealing secrets, the way humans turned their own civilians into deadly weapons. Tell them this, Vexthal said slowly. The humans do not fight to win. They fight to ensure their enemies lose regardless of the cost to themselves. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because of their technology, but because of their nature. The message was transmitted across space to the Zephyrian homeworld, where it caused panic among the military leadership. Reports were already coming in from other conquered worlds. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were suddenly rising in rebellion, inspired by Earth's example. On a dozen worlds, the cry went up, "If the humans can do it, so can we." The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed invincible just weeks before, was crumbling. Dr. Elizabeth Stone stood in the ruins of the Smithsonian Museum, salvaging what books and artifacts had survived the bombing. As a xenobiologist, she had spent years studying alien life forms. Now she had become an expert on something else: human resilience. "Dr. Stone?" called a voice behind her. She turned to see a young reporter with a camera crew. "I'm sorry, we're not giving interviews right now." "Please, Doctor, the whole world wants to know, how did we win?" Elizabeth looked around at the destroyed museum, then up at the sky where the last alien ships were disappearing. "We won," she said finally, "because we refused to lose. The aliens came here expecting to fight soldiers and governments. Instead, they had to fight every single human on the planet. But they had better weapons, better ships, better technology." "Yes," Elizabeth agreed, "but we had something they didn't understand. We had hope." Miles away, Tony Tucker was already at work, in his garage, studying pieces of alien technology salvaged from the battlefield. The mechanic who had figured out hyperspace travel was now designing something new. "What are you building?" asked his assistant. Tony looked up from his workbench, where the frame of a new kind of spacecraft was taking shape. A starship, a real one, built with human and alien technology combined. "Why?" Tony smiled. "Because the aliens are going to tell everyone in the galaxy about us. And when they do, some of those aliens are going to want to come here and see what we're really capable of. We better be ready." Dr. Lisa Campbell arrived at Tony's garage that evening. Her electromagnetic weapons had saved Earth, but now she was thinking about the future. "Tony, I've been analyzing the alien technology we captured. I think we can build faster-than-light communication systems." "Good," Tony replied. "We're going to need them." "Why?" "Because we're not staying on Earth forever. The aliens made a mistake when they came here. They showed us that there's a whole galaxy out there, full of species being oppressed by empires like theirs." Lisa understood immediately. "You want to help them. Why not? We proved that empires can be beaten. Maybe it's time we taught that lesson to the rest of the galaxy." President Helen Carter called an emergency session of Congress in the Capitol, building's bomb shelter. The legislators who had survived the alien attack gathered to hear her address. "My fellow Americans," she began, "and citizens of Earth, we have won the greatest victory in human history. But our work is not finished." She gestured to a large screen showing images of the retreating alien fleet. "These invaders came here thinking we were weak. They learned otherwise. But there are other species out there, other worlds under the heel of tyrants like these. We have a choice to make." The room was silent as she continued. "We can rebuild our world and hope we're left alone. Or we can take the fight to them. We can become the force in the galaxy that stands up for freedom." Across Earth, the same conversation was happening in 1,000 different places. In military bases and research labs, in farms and factories, in schools and hospitals. Humanity was deciding what kind of species it wanted to be. The answer came not from governments or leaders, but from ordinary people. The same people who had refused to surrender to overwhelming force. Within a year, the first human starship would leave Earth's solar system, not to conquer or colonize, but to find other species fighting for their freedom. The aliens had come to Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the galaxy. Admiral Vexathal's final words in his report to the High Command proved prophetic. "We came here to conquer a world. Instead, we created an enemy that will never stop fighting for what it believes in. May whatever gods you worship have mercy on us all." The warning went unheeded. The Zephyrian Empire continued to crumble as world after world rose in rebellion. And from a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system, humanity began its journey to the stars. They had learned the most important lesson in the galaxy. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from winning, but from refusing to lose.